summoned for a special.
Welcome to the XPW podcast, the first edition of the XPW podcast. I'm joined by the lovely Hard and the ever so excellent Stamps for our first edition of the XPW podcast. How are we doing this evening, boys? Or morning?
Pretty good, I
Morning.
guess.
Morning, evening, and still morning.
Yeah, wherever you are watching from in the world, obviously. We know you're loyal to XPW, I think. You know all the drama recently, as these two boys know.
Not an XPW, join it.
Yeah, as these two. So basically, I'm going to explain who's who, just in case you're not in XPW. So the one talking right now, Mad Boss, I basically own XPW, the whole of XPW. I have done now for a good month and a bit now, I'd say. Took over from the previous owner as he left.
Some
And
controversy happened there.
I don't want to mention it. And
Nope.
yeah, basically the Fed is uprising. We're trying something new. A podcast is saying a Row Wrestling Federation. I don't think I've ever done. In my 8 years Row Wrestling, I've never seen anyone do a podcast. So
High five.
I'm moving swiftly on. To my left on Discord, I've got Hard. Would you like to explain a little bit about yourself and who you are?
That's me. I'm Hardcore Kid. I started pro wrestling when I was 9, and I started in a fed called WWE. And leading up, I now have my own fed alliance with these beautiful people, and I don't know, it's a great community. I love it. So I'm excited to do a podcast.
Yep.
Represent pro wrestling.
And the beautiful man to my right, one of my, well, I'd consider him best friends in the Row Wrestling community. Stamps, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Stamps, and I have been wrestling since I was actually 5 years old because I was a little on Roblox too early, and I used to do other things that I would never actually do. But yeah, I just help out XPW and do a lot of things.
I thought I'd start off this podcast talking almost relevant to the title of the podcast, Broken Kayfabe. So basically, we're gonna share our stories in Row Wrestling as such, and I thought I'd like to start with mine. My 8 year tenure, 8 years and counting of Row Wrestling. So I started in 2012 under the name of Hardy Boys 13. So generally, growing up, I wasn't a big wrestling fan. I only really started watching when I got to about 7 or 8. And the first kind of people I saw was the Hardy Boys. I thought I want to do that one day. We'll get onto that when we talk about personal life. But yeah, so I started an account called Hardy Boys 13. I started in RP Fed. I did a lot of RP. I eventually moved over to Clean, where I've now been for the past 8 years. I've met some amazing, wonderful people. I've also met some not so nice people as well. But I've never really had a bad experience in any Fed I've been in. Most Feds I go to are quite good. You know, I never really meet that many bad people. You get the odd person that you don't agree with or don't like. But I've enjoyed my 8 years for wrestling. You could say I've wasted my life on a Roblox game, but I enjoy it. You know, it's social. I'm not here to win in Row Wrestling anymore. I just enjoy the social. And obviously I run XPW as well. Just, I don't run it for my own sort of reputation. I run it because I run it for other people, because the previous owner was, I don't know how to keep this PG. The previous owner, in the nicest term, was a tyrant
Nice
as such,
possible take.
and obviously everyone would agree with me that he is a tyrant. So,
I was
so
for 3 days.
yeah, I was in it for 3 days before it blew up. I got hired as his CEO, And do you think, he'd do a lot for the Fed? For those of you probably watching No Pro Wrestling, most owners are proper hands-on sort of, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, I've hired you to do this, you do that, I run all the show, all this. He was more like, I'll disappear for a month and let you run the show because I think something else is more important than the Fed. And not only that, he was very abusive as such to his roster and staff. So that led to me taking over, which caused some controversy. But since then, I brought up the Fed. I've This is probably the best period. Well, not my best period of pro wrestling, but it's the only time I've really run a good, successful Fed. When it comes to wrestling wise in pro wrestling, I used to wrestle in a Fed called UKW, which was GMT's biggest federation at the time, and I successfully won that World Heavyweight Championship in UKW once. So I had a big kind of push, and I wasn't always like this indie star because we are indie feds. Any feds under the radius of 1,000 members are considered an indie fed. Um, yeah, that's basically my story. I'm not gonna bore you all anymore with my stories. Stamps, would you like to explain your side of the story from your pro wrestling career?
Oh, I have a lot. I have like one interesting one. Back like let's see, like 2017 I think it was. I was in a Fed called I don't know if any of you had heard of this Fed, but it was called JWWE.
Yeah, I know what it is. No, I've heard
Mm.
of it. I was in it for a little bit.
Yeah, I was in it from like 2016 to 2018, and really I haven't been to a lot of Feds. I've only been to like two main Feds for my whole career, but I've like this was the first one I ever went to. Of course, I was garbage at Real Wrestling when I first started, but then when I picked up a little bit, the Fed started to help people more than the other, like not just me. Of course, I had some matches from time to time that other people were helped more, but from the other people were being helped more than the other. So basically, it was just a rigged Fed from that point on. So I was still in the Fed, of course, and I left the Fed, and then I went on to way more better things in OCW than XPW than other things like that.
Uh, Hard, do you have any stories to share? Any sort of tales you'd like to tell us that most people wouldn't know?
I've got one. My starting Fed, and the only Fed I did participate in is a W Fed. But other than that, I only had one Fed that I participated in called EWE, run by my friend Cole,
Hmm.
and brought in by Pavel, who will probably be on the podcast later in the series. But I was brought on by him, and I was able to win the world championship 3 times and just win a bunch of titles, and it was a really cool community. I spent 3 of my 5 years with that Fed. Went on hiatus for a year by accident because the Fed died. They're back up and running now. And then eventually I got messages on Discord. I actually checked Discord for the first time in like a month, and I checked on everyone, and a lot of people were checking on how I was doing and stuff. And it's a great community that I want to be a part of. It's,
Okay, there is a story I think a lot of people would be interested in. Not just people in XPW, but this is probably going to end up in OCW and all these other feds anyway. I know there's one story people probably want to know. My point of view is people probably want to know my view and why I kind of sided with Cured. People really want to know. I know a lot of people don't know my point of view from the story, so I'm gonna talk about the whole sort of situation quickly because it is an XPW podcast. So it started off when Wolf brought me in as a developer in OCW. and I thought, maybe we should bring in Cured as a developer. You know how that ended up going. Terribly wrong. So, Cured made the Clash Royale or Clash Rumble arena, and me and Stamps were working, not Stamps, me and Cured were working quite well together. And then obviously all that issues arose of people not liking Cured. And I felt it was wrong. This was before I knew about all the racism, homophobia, and all that sort of stuff he did. So I sided with Cured, and as you know, that was a terrible decision because I didn't know much, but I ended up in a massive, massive argument with Batman. That's what most people don't know. It was an hour-long argument with Batman about like just back and forth for just stupidity, and I was like quite angry already for some reason. So I was just biting and biting, and then I eventually got fired. And Cured never spoke to me again anyway. So I died. It was pointless basically. I've kind of brushed over it a lot, but and then I come back in LCW. Now we're fine. Now I'm running XPW. It's all good. I have just received a couple of questions in my DMs from someone who's obviously going to listen to this podcast, and I thought it'd be interesting if we could answer it. So I'm going to direct this question to both of you, and I'm going to
Okay.
ask you your opinion. So we'll start with hard. Let me read the question. This is from an anonymous source.
Alright.
If you could pick the top 5 XPW superstars, based
Ooh.
on your opinion, who would it be and why for each one?
Ooh. Alrighty. Um, I'm gonna go number 5. I'm gonna go Wolfle Shark.
Hmm Intercontinental
He's
champion.
yeah, he's very community guided. What I like about people is that they're not about themselves; they're about the community.
Mm.
Number 4, I'm gonna say Christian. He's just a really funny guy, and just you can feel his positive vibes while you're around him.
And also ability wise, he is the world heavyweight champion in XPW as
Yeah.
well.
Then I'm gonna go with at number 3. Obviously, I'm gonna go Stamps.
Ooh, interesting one.
Stamps is pretty awesome. Um, and then I'm gonna go with
It's a difficult one, the top 2.
yeah.
I'd struggle to make 5.
I think I've got a tie at 2.
Mm.
I've got Alex Wonder and Ethan Powers.
Both good.
Those
Both good
two just
staff members.
yeah. And then number 1, I'm gonna say you.
Of
You
course.
brought I know, such a heartwarming moment on the podcast.
Now,
Um,
stop. Now, if I move the question over to you, Stamps, but if I said you had to base it off ability, could you make a top 5 XPW wrestlers based off ability?
Ability.
Yep, ability.
I can make a top 5 on ability.
Hmm
Okay, so for me, number 5, I would have to go with.
And why as well, by the way.
I would have to go with maybe number 5 would be Lemon.
Hmm.
All the way down to 5.
Well, I would put him in like number 3 or something, but I don't know who else to pick for number 5, so I'll just go with Lemon for number 5 because
Fair.
he he can make he's one of the I think he was like one of the champions in XPW, and he just sends positive like
Yeah.
waves through like he's just a good guy basically.
Yeah, he is the XPW Gold Rush champion.
Yeah, the Gold Rush champion. Um, I think number 4 we're gonna go with.
It's a difficult question.
Yeah. Especially when you haven't seen everyone go up against everyone.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think like who should I pick. I'm gonna go with Ben, like on the Biz in Evolution.
Is that based off
Oh.
hardcore
Yeah, the
or
face of hardcore.
yeah?
Cause like he can actually stick to kayfabe when he needs to, and then outside of XPW, he's actually a good guy as well.
Yeah.
So we're down to the top three. Who makes your top three stamps? You can make
Um,
you can make friends here or lose friends.
I think number 3 is gonna be for Waffle Shark.
Ooh. Wolf makes it into both your top five.
Nice.
Well, Waffle Shark has to be on the list because he can stick to kayfabe like kayfabe is important in XPW and all
Mm.
wrestling in general. So he can really stick to it, even outside of shows. He can stick to kayfabe in like other events we have, and also outside of XPW, he's a helpful dude, and he can actually, you know, do things in XPW.
That reminds me, keep a lookout for the latest YouTube video. All your faces.
Yeah, I'll link in the description of the podcast. So he makes your
Yep.
top two, Stam.
For number 2, I think we're gonna have to go with Alex Wonder.
That makes
Based off ability in XPW. Well, he is a former world champion, two-time world champion actually.
Well, the thing is, he's won 2 world titles in XPW, and that the fact
Major
that
titles. Yeah.
well, and then the fact that he's actually like he's kind of like well known, if you kind of get what I mean, if he's kind of like well known, and also he's not taking that to his advantage. He's actually like chill. He doesn't brag about how good he is and stuff like that, like some other people do.
Right. So who's your number one, Stamps?
My number 1 is gonna have to be Diz. Just kidding.
I got a boot from the small back sold out.
Um, my number 1, trying to go off of what we,
It's a difficult one.
huh. I don't know. It's a tie between Mad Boss, aka you, and Christian for me. I'm
Hmm.
trying to think who's number 1. I mean, I'm not trying to pick like the owner, but even though I really like want to put him on my top 5,
I
so
could,
I'll just say Christian.
I could sit here and tell you my top five now of
Yeah.
all time because I've obviously been here the longest.
9-1, and I'm not in the top 5. Okay.
So if we had to base it off a top five of all time, so I'd go. Oh my god, this is hard. This is going to cause some controversy. Okay, well, number five is Ali Park. Right.
Okay, I don't mind him.
He is an XPW original. He's a one-time tag team champion. He's also a two-time continental champion as well. So he is probably the most successful wrestler in XPW history. Now, my number four is Wolf, obviously. He makes it into all our top five. Probably one of the most professional wrestlers I work with in XPW. Um, number three would have to be Lemon.
That makes sense.
He is the longest reigning Gold Rush champion, the only Gold Rush champion in XPW history. And then we come
Yeah,
down to the top two.
I came 3 and 5 again.
Top two. This is a difficult one. But Christian would be my number two. Probably one of the best champions we have at the moment. And then number one, probably the most reliable man on my roster. I can rely on him to be on every show and give me 100%. Whatever I give him, a promo, I don't know, a kayfabe battle or a fight, he's always there, never moans, and that's why he gets pushed. So my number one is Emmanuel.
That makes sense.
I mean, I was about to laugh at first, but then when I think about it, it makes a lot of sense
Yeah,
why
when
Emmanuel is number
when
one.
when you take that moment to like actually think about it, you realize
He is
that
probably does
he
everything.
has his moments, but we all do.
He may not win everything, but he puts on good matches. He puts people over. He does promos. He does not argue with me. He does not cause any issues. He does not moan or complain. Do we have any honourable mentions? Or uh, I have an honourable mention that just
I
missed
do
out.
too. Let's hear yours.
So my other honourable mention would be Lacrit. Probably one of the. I know he's not around at the moment, but he is the current XPW World Champion. Nitro, probably as well. Triple. So we've talked about XW as a whole and our top fives. I've now got another question. Oh god, it's a similar question. Hard. This one is for you. Ready? In order, name your top five gimmicks in XPW.
Ooh, all
Ooh.
right, I like that. Uh, number 5, we gotta go Pavel, obviously. Top 5 gimmicks, we got a Pavel on there somewhere. Number 4, I'm gonna go JJ Cole. I don't know JJ
JJ
Cole's history.
Cole, baby.
JJ
Yeah.
Cole, bye bye. He just pulls it off really well.
Mhm.
Um, JJ Cole. Number 3, I'm gonna go with probably.
If block doesn't make your list, I swear down. Just honestly, I'd have block in there. CC. Um,
uh,
Ben.
I'm gonna go at number 3. I'm just gonna go with Ethan. He's just got like a kind of young star vibes gimmick. Number 2, am I allowed to pick mine?
No.
I'm gonna go with the the whole. Can I go with evolution as an entire
It's a whole
It's a
gimmick,
whole
isn't
gimmick, isn't
the evolution gimmick? That's pretty neat. Number one, I'm obviously gonna go with Groot.
it?
Jeez. Um, Number
Yeah,
one, it's hard to narrow it down, but
so
I'm gonna go Hardcore Jesus.
yeah, it's probably the best gimmick we have.
Yeah. And
Where was I at? Oh, to be honest, I'm out of questions in my head. Oh
yeah.
god, stamps. If you
What?
had, what did you say? What for? If
Cause you said my name.
if you right had to pick your top five row wrestlers of all time, who would you pick?
Okay, just a disclaimer. I'm only gonna pick people from XPW and OCW because those are the only ones I know.
Boo.
Alright, so coming in at number 5, I have to go with. Is it my favorite row wrestlers or the best row wrestlers in my opinion?
Favorite.
Favorite. Alright, that's good. I can do that. Okay. So, number 5 is going to be Hardcore Jesus.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
I really like the gimmick and all the hardcore vibe he brings. And then for number 4, hmm,
Hard one, isn't it?
I'm gonna go with Christian.
Chris Orton.
Yeah, Chris Orton from XPW.
Number
And
three.
then number 3. All right, so I'm gonna admit he isn't the best, but he does a lot and he won't like miss a show for anything. But number 3 is Emmanuel.
Mhm. Number two.
Number 2, it's gotta be Waffle Shark.
And the big number one.
Um,
Oh, it's a difficult one.
Spy.
Yeah, it does have a good. Yeah. If I had to pick my top five best wrestlers I've ever seen in my 8 years, there's an obvious list. Even though there'll be some people you won't know. Sliding in at number five, I would have to pick Gianni from SCW and AXW. Obviously, he's the owner of AXW. Coming in at number four, you may. Oh, I gotta think. Remember his name now. You may. He's a GMT legend. Obviously, I know him very well. It would have to. Actually, no, not him actually. Coming in at number four would be Undead Brock, one of the greatest pro wrestlers I've ever seen. Number three would be Boss Raymundo. Great. He, if you don't know who he is, he owns CCW. Yeah, Classic Championship Wrestling. Um, Number two. Honestly, it's a difficult one for me, based of ability. But number two would be Jaden, and then coming in
Hey, Daniel.
at number uno one, probably. Oh, I'm trying to figure his name now. What was his name? If I could remember his name, I would. But honestly, ability-wise, I'll have to go with someone else. I believe, ability-wise, if it's talking hardcore, Dylan Brown is probably one of the greatest. Oh, that's going to cause controversy, isn't it? No,
Don't.
my number one is uh my number one's hard. Okay, moving on swiftly. Is there anything you boys would like to share with us this evening, or morning, or afternoon? Anything you'd like to
Um.
talk about?
I've got a question for all of
Oh. Okay.
Mhm.
you. Who was your mentor when you first started row wrestling? Who was your person that you looked up to?
Oh, Christ, Packer P was my mentor. He's still around now. If you've ever met him, Packer P, he mentored me. Stamps, do you remember who mentored you?
So if
So,
are you talking about when I first started pro wrestling?
or just
Yeah.
generally? We could say generally as well.
Oh, generally. Hmm.
Well, I mentored you, didn't I? For a little
Yeah.
bit. I was your mentor, Stamps. I mentored hard in OCW. I was your
Yeah.
mentor in OCW as well in the way, Stamps.
Wolful Shark.
Yeah, Wolf was good mentor. But I'd already had the ability by the time I joined OCW. I'd just been retired and such. Um,
I'm gonna
Turbo,
say
go on.
mine. Probably a man by the name of Cole Rollins.
Mhm.
He uh, he he was the first person who row wrestled, and by chance he found Pavel at WWE, and we ended up like, yo, you should come join our Fed, and eventually he taught me how to do everything. That's as far as wrestling. As far as booking and stuff goes, I think you and Alex Wonder
Mhm.
are my big mentors in booking wise. So I'm much better there. So yeah, I'm gonna check that here on
Okay.
July
Yeah,
5th.
go on.
Will be my 5th.
Anyway, I think we have answered probably all the questions I've received. We probably talked enough. A lot of gibberish, considering we're three guys who play on a kids game, running a wrestling fed.
I know it sounds so weird when you say it,
It's,
but
But it's true.
it's
it is
true.
true, and we enjoy it.
It,
So
yeah, exactly. That's the point. And the people who watch this are probably going to enjoy it as well. So you just don't get to see all the fun bits that I get to edit out.
yeah,
Bloopers coming
Fun.
soon. Yeah. So I think that's the end of our podcast. So thank you, Hard and Stamps, for joining me.